Well, hello, my friend. Welcome to the podcast. I'm Conny Graf, your host. Thank you so much for allowing me back into your ears. Today, you're in for a treat. I'm very excited to welcome a special guest. You might have noticed that I really didn't have any guests on all year long, and that's for various reasons I don't want to get into today. But when Katie reached out and asked to be a guest, I really wanted to say yes. And after we had a quick pre-chat, we knew we wanted to create an awesome podcast episode together for you. So Katie Pulsifer is a wonderful human being and a coach. So she helps women rediscover who they are after a big life shift. Think stepping out of high-powered corporate roles, raising children, or navigating empty nesting. And she herself went through a big life shift, and she opens about it and about her journey, including the big leap from working as an employee and teacher to returning to full-time entrepreneurship. We dive deep into what it really takes to move from uncertain transitions, including all the messy mindset and mindset work that comes with it. So you hear us chat about why leaving behind major roles like motherhood or corporate jobs feels so disorienting, and how to find our footing again. How to root in our own worth even when our brain tries to fixate on every flaw and doubt like it loves to do, right? And we talk about Katie's mindset or mantra about you are golden and what it means. We also chat about how to live in the in-between when our mind craves certainty but there is none, and why this transition phase can feel so wobbly and how to move through it and through that discomfort with a bit more self-compassion. And also about finding our own sustainable pace for life and business, right? How we need to let go of that pressure from ourselves and from others, from the world, to hustle and to scale, and instead actually building a business that truly fits our values and our real life and the life we want to have. So if you feel in between identities, in between roles, or in between seasons right now, this conversation will inspire you and remind you that you're absolutely not alone and that it's possible to move forward in a way that feels true to you. And if you're not in between identities, I'm sure you find a lot of value in this beautiful conversation. Okay, without further ado, let's jump into this conversation with Katie Pulsifer. Welcome, Katie. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast. How are you today?
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm so honored to have you, actually. So, the first question I always ask my guests is, where in the world are you located? So that I don't know, my listeners are international, right? So I feel like they are excited to hear where you're located. And the second question that I right away also ask already is, what is one thing about you that most people are surprised to hear?
Oh, okay. Well, I today am located in St. Thomas in the United States Virgin Islands.
Mm.
So we are here for my husband's work, and we also live in Maine. That's where we raised our family. But this season of our life requires us to be on site in St. Thomas. So we are in the Caribbean at the moment, which is pretty fun.
Everybody will be jealous to hear that.
I know, I know. And yet, if you really knew what it was like to live here day in and day out, maybe not with prices and power outages and things like that. But
Hmm.
anyway,
Yeah,
it's also
everything has its
beautiful.
price, right?
Yes, totally, totally. And one thing people might be surprised to hear, well, I mean, there's a part of me that loves just the simplest, quietest life that is being barefoot near the ocean, Maybe there was a shower that day, maybe there wasn't, but spending time outside, being kind of as close to nature as I can possibly get. And then I love also that same day getting dressed up and being on a podcast or coaching a client or teaching hundreds and hundreds of students. So the
Mm.
surprise is that I equally love both. And so I make sure that my life is filled with the purest, most natural, simple moments, and then lots of fancy dress up, go out in the world moments too.
That's amazing. Yeah. And I always feel like it's really nice if we have some um like almost like contradiction in life. Like if we can include that, it
Yeah.
enriches us so much. And that's why I love that question, because so many really amazing answers are coming from my guests that you would
Mm,
never think. And I think
mm.
this makes our life more interesting, but I think it's also like lets people perk up when they hear it, right? Like they're like, oh, I wouldn't have thought that about her.
Yeah. Well, it's also such a generous question to ask because it invites us to reveal a little bit more about ourselves. I think
Yeah.
we might just present particular parts of ourselves to the world.
Yes.
And so this question really is permission to share what we might keep hidden or we might think people don't care about. So that feels like a really nice gift.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love the question. And yeah, that is true. The intention is to hear a little bit something that has nothing to do with what you do professionally or what my guest does
Yes.
professionally, right? And nothing
Yes.
to do with necessarily the conversation we have afterwards, although usually it ends up showing up in the conversation we're having afterwards, one
Uh,
way or another.
mm,
So you and I'm really like, I mean it. I'm honored to have you on because I know you from Brooke Castillo's
mhm,
life coach school, right? Which I
mhm.
was for years, I was a student of, and you were a
Yes.
teacher and you were employed there and everything. And you don't remember me, of course, but for me, you were very present. So it's like amazing to talk with you. And as far as I understand, I did a little bit of research. You had your own business before already, then you had it
Yes.
throughout being employed by the life coach school, and now you revived it to its full bloom
Yeah.
again. And you help people, mainly women, as far as I understand, in their later years, like after
Mm,
children and all their so-called
mm,
duties, to rediscover and redefine themselves. And
mm,
I would think you had to do the same thing after leaving Brooke Castillo. So tell us a little bit
mm.
how you managed this transition from being the face to a degree, not outside, but
Yeah.
for sure for us on the inside, the
Mm-hmm.
face of somebody else's business, and then all of a sudden
Mm-hmm.
having to transition into something else, like not into something else, into representing your business, right? And you're like, that must not be that easy. And this is what probably qualifies you to also help women who maybe raised children for 20 years and now all of a sudden need to show up in a different way in
Yes. Yes. So at its core, what you're hinting at is the identity work that we get to do multiple times in this life if we want to, whether we're
Yeah.
leaving corporate and starting our own businesses, or going from being single to being partnered, or mothering full time to launching the kiddos and being empty nesters. So there's so many inflection moments in our lives where we are asked to, or change is thrust upon us. And that was what happened in my case. I had that position for 5.5 years, and it warms my heart that we were there together, even though I didn't
Oh, of course.
necessarily, I don't remember working with you or meeting you
No,
there, but
no.
and she wanted to take her business and her company in a different direction. And so that she didn't need my role anymore. And um, when that happened, I was faced with a choice, like probably many women are, of I either can keep the identity of being an employee, like a high caliber employee for someone else, and go replace this job,
Mm-hmm.
or I can adopt the identity of an entrepreneur and really pour my heart and soul into my business. And I knew that was the decision I wanted to make.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely not the easier decision. And in my mid 50s, you could also say maybe not the most responsible, quote unquote, decision to sort of start over from scratch. Um, but I knew I didn't want to work for anyone else. And so I really got excited by this idea, like, okay, I could be anyone I want to be
Mm-hmm.
in midlife, in my mid 50s. I can do anything I want. And what I cared most about was the freedom to create the business of my dreams
Mm-hmm.
versus going and working for someone else to help them have the vision, the business of their dreams.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is really what the last 2 years have been like for me. And there are days I love it, and there are days I want to quit. Connie, if I'm telling you the
Yes.
truth, there's some days I want to quit. There's some days that I cry. There are some days that I just want the simplest job, like working in a
Yeah.
shop in town or
Yeah.
something. And then most mornings I wake up and it's like, no, this is what I'm meant to do. This is helping other women through whatever their inflection moments are. I want to be here for that. I want to make it easier. I want it to be more inspiring and fun for
Mm-hmm.
them as well. So,
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for being honest because so many people try to pretend, at least online, that it is
oh
the
gosh.
dream of their life. And
Yes.
while it can be, and it was always mine, like I didn't become self-employed in my 50s, I did that in my 20s, right? But and I would argue it was easier back then. We were little bit maybe more flexible also, like we had less responsibilities. So I was also
Mm,
bolder somehow. It's like
yes, I think when we're younger, it makes sense. Yep.
yeah, and I just did it. And there was also less, well, there was no social media, so you couldn't really compare yourself to anybody. So
Oh,
that
yeah.
whole thing went away, right? But what I'm wondering now, talking about your situation, because I did read that you had the business before and you kept it on the
Mm-hmm.
side. Do you think that helped you in some way, or maybe it may have even, I don't want to say hindered you, but maybe tripped you up a bit because you thought, oh, I mean, I have this already. I just rekindle it and it works? Or were you aware that it's quite a transition even though you had a sidekick all the time?
Well, I mean, I started my business in 2015 before I was even certified as a life coach
Hmm.
because I had been coached and it had profoundly changed my life. And
Hmm.
I just knew I was meant to help other people. So I threw together a website and literally threw together a business and was this courageous person that just wanted to get my message out into the world.
Hmm.
And I just started, and it worked very, very well.
Hmm.
And then when I started to receive a lot and study coaching and marketing and the right quote unquote way to do this online business thing,
Yes.
all of a sudden my confidence tanked. I started telling myself that I've been doing it wrong,
Yeah.
that I didn't buy this, that, and the other course, and you're supposed to do webinars and you're supposed to do this. I mean, I got myself so twirled around and twisted around in my head that for the next 3 years, my business went down, 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 down
Hmm.
until I was riddled with shame, doubting everything, and that teed me up to be available to get hired as one of the early employees at the life coach school and
Hmm.
then work there 6 years. So it all happened perfectly and for the right
Yes.
reasons.
Yes.
But not believing in myself as an entrepreneur made me an amazing employee for someone else.
Hmm. Hmm.
And, I was so committed to that job. And when I came back out when I came out and then needed to start my own business, I knew that I needed to overcome that thought. And
Mm-hmm.
so I learned a lot about how to do business from working inside a coaching business,
Mm-hmm.
definitely.
Yeah.
But I also knew that none of that would matter if I still believed that I wasn't an entrepreneur and I
Mm-hmm.
didn't work on the shame and the self-doubt
Mm-hmm.
that had plagued me before.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that perfectly answers your question. Yes, my business was chugging along kind of with one client per year the whole time I worked at the
Mm-hmm.
school, but my mindset is what needed my
Yeah.
attention before I could really go in on this full time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's often the mindset, right? Like, and yeah. And this is a bit what I mean. Like, so I started my business 1998. So don't start
Huh.
calculating. So, but that's kind of what I mean. Back then, nobody told you how to market. Nobody told you to
No.
do webinars. There was another thing. Like, I just went out and got clients and I served my clients and all was
Oh,
fine. Like, life was so much simpler, right? And
exactly.
now we really have to be careful. Like that shame that you felt, I feel, comes mostly from comparing us and listening to other people
Yes.
rather than listening to ourselves. And back then, there was other challenges. I'm not saying back then was everything was
Hmm.
better, but it was simpler. So simpler.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I think you're absolutely right because now we have so many inputs
Yeah.
and so many people selling us
Yeah.
their their proven method, their proven get results quick
Yeah.
strategies. There's a lot that's available to us, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And when we're not managing our minds,
Yes.
we often go chasing it, all of those things to help us without like really leaning in and trusting ourselves first that we know
Yeah.
what's best.
Well, we're also not trained to trust ourselves first, right? Like I have not
Yes.
been raised and trained like to trust myself.
Oh,
I
yeah.
like there is some people that are raised that way. I was not one of the lucky ones, so there's a lot
Hmm.
of work involved that we
Hmm.
have to do, I think, on ourselves if we want to get like if we don't want to just have the nice easy life somewhere in a shop where we just have to show up, sell somebody else's things and go back home and not worry about
Hmm.
anything else, right?
Hmm.
And there's nothing
Hmm.
wrong with that. Not everybody
Of
has to be
course.
an entrepreneur or a business owner, but if you have this pull inside of you, then
Hmm.
we probably have to listen to it.
Yes.
Yeah. So one thing that I love about what you're saying is, and I see you saying this everywhere, also on Substack, you are golden. And so I
Mhm.
didn't grow up in North America. I didn't grow up with this saying at all. I think I heard it before by some other person, but it's not something I hear so much. And so just talking about mindset, the first thought that probably not just for me comes up is like, oh yeah, I wish. So it's
Oh,
so
interesting.
that's revealing a bit from me. So like
Mm.
yes, if I'm actually very intentional, I do my inner work and everything, I understand. Yes, I'm golden, totally. But like if we're caught up in the day to day, like you said, sometimes we wake up and we're not good.
Mhm.
To tell
Mhm.
myself then I'm golden is almost like having the opposite effect on me.
Mm.
So you
Mm.
as a master coach, tell us a little bit how we can use this really to um, help ourselves. So like coming from this place of I am golden. I am
Mm.
this way, right?
Yeah. Well, I love gold as a color,
Hmm.
as a material. I love what it represents, and I this phrase just has a lot of meaning to me for
Hmm.
me, and I love the idea that we can just declare it
Hmm.
even when it's uncomfortable
Hmm.
because your examples speak to what many of us do. We're very uncomfortable thinking lovely thoughts about ourselves.
Yeah.
It. is not our brain's default mode. Usually our brains, as you know, love to find the evidence of all the things that are not right about us and offer those up first. We don't all get to grow up in households that shine a light on how wonderful we are. And I want to say this, that it's not about toxic positivity and be happy at all costs. That's not this as much as it is like believing in our inherent whole, wise, and worthiness,
Mm-hmm.
and believing in the light that is within all of us. And how can we turn towards that light? How
Mm-hmm.
can we see our inner strengths, our inner beauty, our inner qualities, and trust that we often have answers
Yeah.
and we often know what is best for us?
Mm-hmm.
But so much of our society pushes and encourages that everybody outside of us knows more. There's
Mm-hmm.
something to buy that will solve whatever problem we're having or fix whatever deficit we have. And I just, for as long as I get to do this work, I want to be championing this idea that so much goodness is within us if we're willing to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
Even like you said, sometimes when the negative thoughts come in quickly, how can we be with ourselves through those negative thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
see them for what they are? Oh, here's my brain doing the thing my brain does, trying to tell me
Mm-hmm.
all these negative things about myself,
Mm-hmm.
and keep going and finding that golden light within where we have nicer things to say. Because
Yeah.
the way we show up in the world when we're speaking nicely about ourselves to ourselves, it's profoundly different. I'm
Yeah.
sure you notice that even in your life, in your clients
Oh
as
yeah.
well.
Oh yeah. Well, I had to work first on myself, right? Like
Yeah.
again, I
Yeah.
grew up with in a very critical environment. So then what my
Mm,
brain did was, of course, taking that on and like I was literally beating myself up probably until I
yeah.
found the work of Brooke, but it wasn't just the work of Brooke. It was kind of like the work, Brooke's work just told me how to do it practically. I was already kind of before
Yes.
on this path and I learned it. And I always say like it was crazy how I beat myself up. Like I literally continued on. And I think so many people do because when I coach my clients too, I hear it all the time. That it's like I hear it and I'm like, oh my God, who is saying that? That's your bully. I call it the bully in
Oh,
our head,
yes.
right? It's just
Yes.
a
Yeah.
bully
That's
talking, beating
right.
yourself up. And
Yes.
what is also interesting often, what I notice, and you may notice that too, is like when you work with people, they beat themselves up when things don't go the way they should, or they tell themselves they should.
Mm-hmm.
And then they
Mm-hmm.
still beat themselves up when the things went the way they should because they always find things that could have gone better. And so we have
Yes.
another reason to
Yes.
beat ourselves up. And I
Yes.
used to
Yes.
be that way. I can so
Yeah.
relate, right? And
Mhm.
it's
Yes.
so I love that when you say you're golden, or we can tell ourselves we're golden and find it in ourselves. I think it ties, you correct me if I'm wrong, but it ties in a little bit with what you talked about. I listened to an interview you gave with Corinne Crabtree, and you guys
Mm.
talked about grace, right?
Mhm. Yes,
And
yes.
she was surprised, and I was surprised too when you said you never had so much trouble to give yourself grace. And I think so many people, or at least the ones I came across, and myself included, we have trouble giving us grace. We always like put a higher bar on whatever we're doing compared to what we're other people the requirements they have in our eyes, right? And so talk a little bit
Yes.
about the grace part too, because I think it ties in into this
Oh,
thought of
definitely.
we're golden and to find it.
Yeah, definitely. So, yes, it's interesting. I mean, I remember from a very young age being able, holding myself in high regard.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have always had good thoughts about myself. And I've always had a lot of grace for myself as well. It's just come naturally.
Mm-hmm.
Likely, my parents were very influential in this
Mm-hmm.
area.
Mm-hmm.
My challenge has always been pushing myself to finish things I start,
Mm-hmm.
to take extraordinary leaps, to do hard things,
Mm-hmm.
to because having grace with myself, it was very easy to be, well, you did pretty good. You
Mm-hmm.
know, a C in school, a C is pretty great. Don't feel
Mm-hmm.
bad about a C. So
Mm-hmm.
whereas I never was the over striver, over
Mm-hmm.
perfectionist, work it until it was absolutely the best it could be. So the muscle that I've always been trying to strengthen internally is like stay in it, keep working at it, make it better, get it across the finish line, don't
Mm-hmm.
give up too soon, sign up for things that push me and challenge me. Even me in midlife, um, teaching myself to lift weights. Like
Mm-hmm.
mentally, you would not believe how hard this is because I'm asking myself to do something really, really physically hard, and
Mm-hmm.
I can let myself off the hook
Mm-hmm.
really quickly
Mm-hmm.
for it,
Mm-hmm.
if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so I recognize that that is a bit of a unique approach. And a lot of my clients are the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
So it's easy for me to teach them how to have more grace for
Mm-hmm.
themselves
Mm-hmm.
and to lead by example. And then you know what they end up doing? They end up showing me the way to
Mm-hmm.
work harder
Mm-hmm.
and have more follow through qualities and stick with it a little bit better.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that's beautiful. I think from all I know about you, you're at least aware that this grace may um like lead you to cop out and just think, oh, it's all fine, right? But I think it's such a beautiful thing. Like from a perspective of somebody who had to really work hard on not beating myself up the time, I
Hmm.
think like, oh, how wonderful would it be if I wouldn't have this bully in my head that constantly beats me up. And and I have more grace for myself. But it's interesting because like anything, it has two sides, right? Like
Uh,
giving grace has. So I come a lot from astrology, and in astrology, we always said there's a high road and there's a low road for
yeah.
anything and everything. Even the things we think they're perfect and couldn't be better, they have a low road and a high road. And the low road of grace is probably to let yourself off the hook when you actually should push through, right? So it's
Yes.
interesting.
Yeah, you're so right. I love that high road and low road. And I feel like I am in a season of working on my low road right
Hmm.
now.
Hmm.
And I'm
Hmm.
glad that I know how to find grace and be forgiving and kind and see the golden within me, but like really teaching myself to stick with it and really teaching myself how to do hard things in this season of entrepreneurship with aging parents and launching daughters that are all
Hmm.
over the place and just balancing what midlife brings us. And
Yeah.
because I really want to learn this skill right now.
Hmm.
This is like what I want to take up at this time in my life.
Yeah. And it will be so beneficial, or it is already actually so beneficial for any of your clients, right? I always feel too, it's like whatever hardship or whatever struggle I go through will be so beneficial then for
Mm,
my work. And I'm not saying that necessarily just that I can help my clients better, but like you just said, you learn from your clients too. You learn from coaching clients. You learn so much for yourself, which then helps you again to grow. And
mm.
so this is awesome. So you actually made the best segue over to what I want to talk next because you write on Substack. So and I'm right now looking into whether I want to
Mm,
go and publish on Substack too or not. But so I was on Substack and you have lovely, lovely posts there. And in one, you wrote about this in-between space that you're in
mm,
right now.
mm-hmm,
And you were just
mm-hmm,
alluding to this with
mm-hmm,
daughters launching into their life, not needing the mother as much. but then
Mm-hmm.
still needing the
Mm-hmm.
mother, aging
Uh-huh.
parents, now not living nearby, right? Like you
Yes.
always
Yes.
did, but you live now in paradise, right? So the price of paradise is that you're in between. And I can so relate to this in between thing too, because for the
Mm,
longest time, when I moved from Switzerland to Canada, I lived in this in between place because
yeah, I bet you
and I
did.
still
Yes.
have the ties to Switzerland. So I'm still kind of not just in one place. So I totally can relate to the in between. But a lot of people have a hard time, um, not tolerating. Tolerating is probably the wrong word, but just being, let's say being with this in between
Mm,
thing. And I
mm-hmm.
feel like right now the whole world is even in an in between
Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm-hmm.
situation. So talk a little bit about that, how you handle this, because I think it fits right in what we're talking anyways. People who want to reinvent themselves, want to challenge themselves, they are in an in-between. You're in
Yes.
between from being the old you to the new you, from the
Mm-hmm.
past self to the future self, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at its most basic fundamental truth is that we crave certainty,
Yeah.
right? So our brains, a dear friend said, loves to say they are lazy and loyal.
Mm-hmm.
And lazy and loyal to what is certain and what is known. So, the very simple example, if you are a mother raising children and you know what it looks like, and your brain gets very used to this is how we get them on the bus, this is how we make sure homework is done, this is how we get them to their activities. We get what this moment in life is like. We understand it. And the brain is lazy and loyal to maintain that at all costs. Well, the bad news is, and the good news is, those little beings eventually grow up and often leave. And then we are now asking our brain to get comfortable with this uncertain moment of transition of what does my life look like now that I am not spending my days doing that thing that was so familiar and so known,
Mm-hmm.
getting those children out of the house. Now they're out of the house and I'm still their mom, but it looks very differently. And so
Mm-hmm.
that is very, I think many can understand what that moment of change looks like. And for the non mothers out there, it's transitioning to education or at work or aging parents or in and out of relationships. So just knowing that the brain is always trying to create certainty because that is equated with safety,
Yeah.
it makes sense that the in between feels so shaky. It feels so hard to navigate. Sometimes it does feel physically unsafe.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, moving through it, there's usually no shortcuts.
Yeah.
I've found, and you probably have as well, that just naming it for what it is, just naming, okay, this is the transition time, this is the in between, this is supposed to not feel amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm also safe. I can tell my brain I'm safe. I can understand why my brain is freaking out a bit as I move through this. That those kinds of messages that we can send often can be quite calming and help while we're in that in between.
Yeah, yeah. What comes to my mind is always like we were just talking about. There's always two extremes, and so I'm not like completely immersed in Tony Robbins' world, but he always says like our brain wants certainty, but it also wants uncertainty, and it's like understanding for ourselves maybe too that if everything would be certain, we would be probably be bored out of our mind.
Totally.
And
Absolutely.
that probably the uncertainty that we're feeling right now is also a good thing, like kind of trying to reframe it, right? And 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 like you said, being with it and accepting that it is that way, and also accepting that not everything has to feel good. Like that's another thing that our society and social media reinforces it that everything should always be amazing, and It isn't. And you started even at the beginning and saying that some days you would want to quit and others we
Hmm.
don't. And this is just how life is. And when we're in these in-between seasons, I have just come out. Well, I don't even know whether I'm out yet, but I feel so, maybe I say, let's say I got used to the in-between season.
Hmm.
Maybe
Hmm.
I'm out. Um, so we always want to rush it, right? We want to push through it. We want to go fast. But one thing that you and I talked about in our pre-chat that really stuck with me is like resisting that pressure also to go fast, like the pressure that we maybe
Yes.
have from inside of us, feeling like, oh, I have to just
Hmm.
get through
Hmm.
this, but also the pressure from outside that feels like, oh, in your business, you should already make seven figures now because you're in business for 3 years. What? You haven't done seven figures yet, right? And to find actually your own pace and to
Mm.
be okay with your own pace,
Mm.
not
Hmm.
being pressured from the bully, how I call it, right? In the inside, and accepting
Hmm.
that not everything feels good, and also not always listening to the outside. So maybe I made a connection that that you don't see, but I see the
Oh
connection
no, I do.
totally.
I do. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, there's that internal sprinter within us that's like, hurry up and get through this challenge as fast as
Yeah,
possible because I don't want to be uncomfortable.
yeah,
And then there's, like you said, all this messaging that suggests always that we should be further along.
yeah.
We should have achieved that by now. We should have bought it by now. We should be at this milestone by now. So much pressure to be moving so quickly to
Mm-hmm.
achieve and climb the ladder the fastest or accumulate the most amount of things. And it's really, really worth, and we were talking about this the other day, if even if that is the way we want to live our lives, if that is like truly, truly what we want and want to be known for is sprinting, or do we want to be kind of lingering in the transition moments longer, thinking about the way that we want to grow businesses?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think enough coaches in particular are asking themselves if they want to grow their businesses in a sustainable way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we don't ask that if we're sprinting and we think that we're already behind and everyone else is further along and we've got to get there fast. But like, what feels sustainable? What feels like a kind of business that we would want be excited to be in 3 years from now? Is it the
Mm-hmm.
biggest,
Mm-hmm.
or is it one that allows us to um, have plenty of free time, plenty of
Yeah.
family time, pursue other passion projects? Those are really important questions that can get missed if we're not just asking what we most want.
Yeah, yeah, and that leads us back again to having to listen to ourselves, right? And so many people,
Yeah.
especially when you're in a hurry or when you're taking on the pace that the outside world kind of tries to impose on you, you may end up somewhere where you don't even want to be, right? Because you're not
Yes.
listening and you're not
Yes.
building your business by your values. And like I coach a lot of people also around finances. So some of them either don't want to look at finances at all, and
Mm.
others are so focused on I need to make that much revenue no matter what. And it's both is not healthy. Again, we're on a high and a
Mhm.
low road. Both is not healthy when it's
Mhm.
not aligned or congruent with what we actually, how we want to live our life and how we want to show up in our life too.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right. I'm
And it's,
sure you're so great at asking people why they want what they want.
yeah, it's not, they don't always like it, huh?
No, yeah, they don't like the answer or the
It's kind of like,
question.
who wouldn't want a 6 or 7 figure business? Well, maybe you never know.
Yeah, yeah, you never
Maybe
know. We
you,
should find out why you really, really want it,
yeah.
because that's so revealing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And also maybe because I was never the one who wanted to have just this huge business. Like I didn't become self-employed to have this huge corporation with whatever how many employees and I wanted like my values were always like the freedom. I have the freedom decide over my time the way I want. And of
Oh,
course,
yes.
there comes a lot of cost with that because you are responsible for your own income. You're responsible for your own paycheck, so
Mm-hmm.
to speak. But I can decide I don't work on Wednesday and I work on Sunday instead because Wednesday is sunny and Sunday rains or whatever. So I think a lot of people don't ask that question. And yes, you got it right. I often ask these people why they
Mm-hmm.
want it. And like I said, there's so much noise out there that we should be at six figures, seven figures, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
whoever we're
Mm-hmm.
listening to, right? That's what we
Yes.
think. And a lot of people never ask themselves what they want, especially now, like when we're recording this, we're at the end of November. Right now it goes into the goal setting for the new year, and we're all
Yeah. Yeah.
supposed to set impossible goals, as Brooke would say, or others
Mm-hmm.
BHAG goals, big, hairy, audacious goals, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, BHAG. You never heard that? I think
Oh,
it's,
yes. Now, yep. Now
yeah,
it's
big,
ringing a
hairy.
bell.
I don't even know who said it first. I just hear it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Hyatt, I think, said it too, but I don't know whether he's the originator of it. Big, hairy, audacious goals. But then we're pressured to do that. But what is our big impossible goal? It might be not six or seven figures. It might be what you just said. Have the balance. Go at the beach whenever you want and have your feet in the
Mm-hmm.
sand, right?
Mm-hmm. I
And
think more and more people I'm talking to these days there, and I'm sure the pandemic fundamentally changed us. There's so much evidence of that, but there are a lot of women, especially, that are talking about wanting to do less.
yeah.
And it's a really beautiful conversation, and often one that they don't quite necessarily feel like they can have when they've been socialized to need to
Hmm.
do so much or supposed to strive for so much. And so it's really interesting to even weigh out, like, what would my life look, and what would my impossible goal of doing less and having less look like? What would that create for me?
Hmm.
And it's so funny. There's so many clients I can think of who, once they claim that that's what they want, it's like whoosh from the sky falls, like the right size business, the right
Hmm.
amount of money, the right kind of clients.
Hmm.
Um, because there's this truth telling that happens versus, no, I'm just supposed to want the thing because everyone else
Yeah.
wants the thing. It's like,
Yeah.
oh no, but for me in my life, I actually want this. And
Yeah.
then it's just kind of the friction falls away, and the striving and the pushing falls away. And then they end up creating something absolutely aligned and beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. Because they're clear, right? Like
Yes, yes.
but it is not easy. So because I do remember when I started my business, people
Mm-hmm.
we're pushing, oh, you can't go on vacations now. Why not? Well, you're self-employed. Yeah. Like, you just started your business, so you can't go on vacation. I went on a 6-month sabbatical in the second year of my business,
I
and they all
love this
said it's
so
not
much.
possible. And you know what? And I tell that story a lot of times, and I tell you, my clients were more supportive of my goal to go on a 6-month sabbatical than my family and my friends
Oh,
were, you know. And I went and I
oh, that's so
and I
beautiful.
wouldn't miss it for anything, right? Like, but
Mm,
like you said, when you actually allow yourself to figure out what you want, and then you can be in that, and that's probably then also when you feel golden on the inside, right?
mm-hmm,
And then
mm-hmm.
you have so much clarity, and then you just do what you know from the inside out, what then it falls into place the minute we are listening. And it's not easy. You have to really close your ears a bit because I got a lot of pushback on
Yeah.
my things. Or when I said I moved to Canada, I had the same thing, right? Like, so there's so much value by listening to yourself. And again, it's not all daisies and sunshine afterwards either, but
Mm-hmm.
and this is what I feel like your message is really beautiful, that giving yourself grace, but at the same time, like let's go and reinvent ourselves after motherhood or after life transitions, right? So and living in that in between and not going fast just because the outside world tells us we should be further or our inner bully tells us we should be further.
Yeah. And it's hard. I mean, for your listeners who are maybe thinking, I would love to slow down, or I would love to build something really big and incredible. It's hard to want what you want
Mm-hmm.
when you hear opposition,
Yeah.
or you're not receiving support, or you share it with people you care about and they're doubting, and you know that isn't easy. I want to name that can feel really isolating and lonely,
Mm-hmm.
and that's when having a coach can be so helpful to
Exactly.
like bolster your belief in yourself and create that path, whatever that path is that you want to pursue. But I
Mm-hmm.
think it's just important to name that, a lot of times when we know what's true for us, and sharing that truth isn't, widely accepted or endorsed, that
Yeah.
can feel like we are going against the grain, we're going to be left out, we're going to be judged.
Mm-hmm.
And there are lots of ways that coaches can support
Yeah.
clients through those moments.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, that would have been more or less my next question. You're wonderful. You give me all these cues. Come wonder that the
oh
next
my gosh,
question
I'm just
wonderfully fits in because I was wondering. So again, like yes, I didn't have a coach back then. It wasn't really a thing back then, but I did
Mm,
find some people that were supportive, right? That totally helps. If you don't have that, then a coach can help. So what would you, for example, tell now a client comes to you? What is the first thing you get them to do as their coach, other than giving support? Sometimes we even need to give permission, even though they don't need permission for anything. But if you
right,
need
I
permission, I
know.
give you gladly permission, right? But where would you start with somebody? What is your work like and your starting point with your clients?
Well, it's usually pretty simple. It's, tell m- paint the picture, tell me the story of what your life is like today.
Mm-hmm.
And like talk about all the things that are amazing and all the things that are challenging, and paint the picture. And then paint the picture of what it is that you most want.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes clients have never articulated that before.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it might be hard to answer that question because we often don't spend a lot of time thinking about what we want. We think about what we have.
Mm-hmm.
We think about not losing what we have. We think
Mm-hmm.
about being grateful for what we have. But we don't often dream about what we most want. And so,
Mm-hmm.
even in the space of a coaching conversation, to just make room for the dream
Mm-hmm.
to emerge, like the dream gets to come alive here. You don't have to tell anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to do anything with it, but let's just like let it come, like take some breaths and come to life and see what it's here to show you. And
Mm-hmm.
then as a client becomes more comfortable with the distance between what they have now and maybe what they want, it might be a really short distance, and just a couple of quick little decisions get them from here to there. There might be a bigger gap between where they are now and where they want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so together we work on like, well, how would this look? What could a path to this thing you want look like?
Mm-hmm.
We talk about mapping it out,
Mm-hmm.
but we also talk a lot about what would need to be let go of,
Yeah.
the identity work to become the person that has the dream come true.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of talking about feelings.
Yeah, a lot of grief, I would assume too,
Yeah,
because
yeah, letting
and not necessarily always grief like most people look at it. It's grief of letting go what you have or what was served you for so long, like, and then
yes.
be tolerating to or being in that in between state, right? And
Mm-hmm.
being pulled forward by where you want to go, understanding that you will have to leave things behind. It's like when I said I moved from Switzerland to Canada, everybody thinks it's amazing. Well, yeah, it is amazing. I agree. It's also very painful because
Yes,
you leave
yes.
behind, I was 37, leave behind family, you leave behind
Mm,
friends, you leave behind your social
yes.
circle, you leave behind some, to a degree, your clients, although they came with me, but still. And you don't like the grief doesn't go away of that. You have to turn the grief around into gratitude that you had it
Mm-hmm.
and that it's okay to not have it anymore. But I could imagine there's a lot of that. And a lot of people, like you said, they haven't even thought of where they want to go because they're so holding on to what they do have because it's hard to let go of what you have.
Yes, and I think in a world where there are so many challenges and so many people suffering, I hear often, I grapple with it myself. I shouldn't want anything more.
Mm-hmm.
I already have so much. I have
Yeah.
so much more than so many other people.
Yeah.
I feel selfish wanting more. I feel greedy. I feel entitled. I feel like my
Mm-hmm.
priorities are out of whack. And that can be very confronting and difficult to make peace with. And yet, for all of us who are silencing our dreams, shrinking away from what we most want, I don't mean to sound so alarmist, but like a little part of us is dying inside. And
Mm-hmm.
it's heartbreaking, you know, that
Mm-hmm.
that we're denying something that's true within us. And the world needs us to claim what we want.
Yeah.
Because when we are going after what we want, we show up in a completely different way. It
Yes.
inspires other people to do the same. I think we can have more impact. I think we can help each other on a
Mm-hmm.
larger scale.
Yes.
But when we're small and silent and quiet about what we want and afraid, and we're hiding from the world,
Yeah.
hiding from ourselves, hiding from what's true.
Yeah.
And that's my personal experience and the contribution I'm able to make to causes that I care about and
Mm-hmm.
support and lift up others. It's always been greater in times where I am leaning into what I most want. When I'm scared and hiding and shut down, I don't have anything to give, you know?
Exactly. And it's actually like it's almost more selfish, right? Because um, by not
Mm,
living your dream or your how you want to live and showing up, you're depriving somebody maybe that needs to hear what you have to say, right? Like that's how I
yes.
started, for example, my podcast. I always thought like if just one person hears it and gets inspired to do something, I have done my job. If I don't go out and share it, I don't help anybody. It may sound selfish to want more, but it's actually selfish to not go out because I don't do anything. Like I'm not helping. That is
Yes.
almost like it sounds maybe sounds harsh. I don't mean it harsh, but it is almost more selfish by hiding instead of actually showing up and inspiring people, right?
Yeah, and you know, because you coach people through this too, they'll label it as selfish, but
Yeah.
what it really is fear,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Fear of taking that next big step, fear of being seen, fear,
Yeah.
what if I don't actually help people? All of that fear feels like
Yeah.
great reasons to not make any changes, but we
Yeah.
know that
Yeah.
what they most want is right on the other side of that fear, and the impact they can have is profound if they're willing to work through it.
Yeah, yeah, and that's where a coach comes in. So really, really helpful. I will put all the links to you and your website and everything in the show
Oh,
notes.
thank you so much.
If somebody feels inspired to, or feels like, oh, this Katie, she's really interesting. I want to possibly work with her or learn more about her. Um, we need to come to an end, unfortunately, although I would want to talk with you forever. Um,
It has
but
been
so
fun.
my question is, what did I not ask, Katie? What you feel like fits still in this conversation or needs to be said, or you expected me maybe to ask you and I didn't?
Oh my gosh. Well, as far as interviewers go, you are incredible. The depth of your questions are beautiful, and I can't think of anything that you didn't ask. because the conversation felt so rich. I just think that I just would say that I'm profoundly grateful for the opportunity to speak to your amazing audience and to spend time with you and getting to know you even better. And that for anyone listening who knows that there is something more they are meant for inside, that is a wise voice to be trusted.
Mm-hmm.
And to just be curious about what that voice is trying to say.
Yeah.
And yeah. So.
Those are beautiful ending words. I don't even want to say much more. Thank you so much, Katie, for coming on. I was really honored. Or I am honored still. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.